For those of you who don't know me, my name is George Ackerman. I'm a retired school teacher. I used to teach young folks science. I grew up in Vermont, but I taught school in Oklahoma, Alaska, and here in New Hampshire. I love being outdoors and doing activities in nature. I love to garden, fish, hunt, and hike. I've hiked the Appalachian Trail, and I've ridden my bicycle across country from the Atlantic to the Pacific. I am currently 4 mountains away from completing the 48 peaks of New Hampshire's 4,000 footers for the 3rd time. And why do I tell you this? It's because each one of us draws inspiration and wisdom from our experiences. I am a very active person. Maybe I should describe myself as a busy person. I wear a few hats at church, buildings and grounds, endowment fund governance, search and call, and the men's fellowship. Yet, it's in those peaceful times, those times of quiet, that I'm most likely to see or recognize the handiwork and the call of our Creator. Here we are now, one day in the life of this church, which began so many years ago. In the big picture, over 2,000 years ago. And in our local picture, 235 years ago this month. Wow. Both of these things are just amazing. To think back now on all those people, like you and me, that went before us, to consider all that they might have accomplished in their lifetimes, yet none of them, not even Jesus, did more individually than we can do collectively. There is power when we work together. Think of it this way. This local church has had individuals supporting it for over 200 years. Each person doing what they can, supporting the church and community through their gifts of time, talents, and finances. You are listening to me speak, so that puts you in a similar category as to all those who have been impacted by the life of this church. We are all a part of its life today, and tomorrow, what we do today will become part of the history of this church. Each one of us considering and doing what we can. Doing what we can looks different to different people. In fact, I would dare say that it is as unique as every one of us is. There are as many different possibilities as there are people. Yet, each one of us does what we can. The collective result is much greater. Jesus did what he could, and look at where we are today. The apostles and the first century believers did what they could. Their believing and collective efforts also led to where we are today. But I ask you, how can we possibly compete or compare ourselves with our ancestors and their success? Easily, I say. Each one of us doing what we can. Consider the local ancestors of this community. They did what they could, and look at where we are today. Each person taking action to support the work of the church locally. Consider the fact that one family gave to the church the parsonage. That gift served and supported this local church for years and continues to support this church even after the sale of that property. This church, our church, has a history of folks that have supported it with their time, talents, and finances. It's our turn now to do what we can today for the possibilities of tomorrow. No one individual can do the work of the church alone, but together we can. For example, individually, we can support the effort to build the church's endowment fund. But collectively is where the real success will come from. Consider the memorial garden. People are currently purchasing bricks, which will be engraved with a message of their choice. No memorial garden would be much to look at with only one brick. But collectively, it becomes more. Collectively, it becomes a thing of beauty and peace, a reminder of the past, an inspiration of love, filled with words of wisdom and sharing of who we are to those in our future. The bottom line is that we each do what we can. The collective result is more powerful. It's bigger than the individual effort, and as a result, has a greater impact. Oh, did I forget? Did I forget to mention that we are never truly alone in our efforts anyway? That we have the support of another, our God. The same God that has told us that we will be given support in our efforts as we do good. The same God who has told us to consider the lilies of the field, which are taken care of. And we will be too. So we should not worry about tomorrow, but rather focus on today. The same God that has said through giving, we will be blessed back. And that our blessing will be multiplied to the point that we will not have room to receive it. The same God that has told us that we can move mountains through prayer and believing, who is also the same God that is still speaking. My wife Donna and I taught in the community of Metlakatla, Alaska for 10 years, home to the Tsimshian people. Metlakatla sits on Annette Island, which makes up the only Indian reserve left in Alaska. To say we learned a lot while living there would be an understatement. What I gained in that experience is priceless. Let me begin by explaining that this is a closed community with their own laws and governing body. We were only given the opportunity to live there because they had a void in their teaching staff that no one from the community could fill. As a result, we were hired to teach and live on the island, where we could not purchase a home or own land. As non-tribal members, we did not have that privilege. In fact, we did not have many of the same rights as tribal members. We had to purchase a green card every year, which gave us permission to continue living on the island for another year. We were also aware that if our behavior warranted it, we could be given a blue card at any time and would be booted off the island. Most teachers lasted a year or two. Then they would move on to teach in other places. We stayed 10 years, and the relationship grew to the point that we were both adopted into the tribe. The tribe is made up of 4 clans: Eagle, Lakshkeek, Raven, Gunhada, Killer Whale, Gishputwara, and Wolf, Lakebu. Donna was adopted into the Killer Whale clan, and I was adopted into the Wolf clan. We were told at the time that they believed that we were the first 2 teachers ever to be offered this opportunity. We were part of many cultural celebrations that included traditional dancing, traditional food, a 4-day potlatch, and we participated in the raising of a new totem pole. We were honored to be a part of life on that island and the community of Metlakatla. The Tsimshian people, our tribe, have a history of a subsistence lifestyle. They lived off of what the natural world would provide them. Life changed with the seasons, and in many ways still does. The spring brings the herring, which lays so many eggs in the ocean that the water turns white. The eggs cling to the kelp, where they will eventually hatch and keep the cycle going. The eggs that don't wash ashore and turn the beaches white. I have walked those beaches that time of the year and actually had to be careful because the eggs were deeper than my tall rubber boots. We have all made the mistake of stepping in water that was too deep for our boots. I didn't want to fill mine with fish eggs. Life is crazy at that time of year. Everything in nature follows the path of food. The herring are followed by all sorts of birds, humpback and minke whales, along with salmon, which are followed by the gishbootwada, the killer whales. We would begin our fishing for the king salmon that time of year. Our friend David Nelson taught us how and where to catch them. His instruction also included the traditional act of giving, ingrained in the Tsimshian culture, that the first fish of the season was always to be given away. But as you can imagine, spring and the herring would bring a period of abundance to a subsistence lifestyle. Fall and winter bring a period of scarcity. While we lived among the people, the state of Alaska provided what was called a permanent fund dividend to each resident of the state. The money came from investments made from the oil that was drilled and sold. Well, my point is each resident of the state would get a check that averaged around $1,800, even the kids. So as you can see, a large family would do quite well. When the checks came in the mail, Donna and I would put them in the bank to save for later. Many families of the community would leave and return after all the funds were spent. They would return from a life of abundance, say, in Seattle, only to get by in fish and rice until the spring. It took me a while to understand that this was part of a subsistence lifestyle, a way of living that was different from the way that I was raised. Like all things in life, my way was never the only way. When others do or act differently from the way we would act or do things, doesn't make it wrong. It wasn't right for me, but that didn't make it wrong for them. I had a buddy of mine there, Ray Holt. He would tease me about all the firewood that I would cut, split, and store for winter, usually around 7 cords a year. Ray once said to me, "It is going to be a long, cold winter when white men put away so much firewood." We both laughed, and it emphasized the differences in the way we did things. In that community, it wasn't uncommon to hear a chainsaw running at midnight in the middle of a heavy rain. Someone had run out of firewood and went out to gather more. Was that the way I would do things? No. But was the other way wrong? Considering the lilies of the field, I would have to say no. Traditionally, a potlatch was a celebration given by a member of the community. The celebration may have lasted several days, but during that time, that member gave away all of his or her wealth. To me, like most of you, I'm sure, that is not the way we would do things. We have different investments. We have cars, homes, and plenty of things we have collected over time. In fact, in our current society, we have people that don't have enough room for it all, so they rent storage space. Imagine giving it all away. That's hard to do. In fact, that it's so far out of our comfort zone, the state of Alaska outlawed the potlatch at one point in time as they tried to make everyone behave as the white man. Back to my point. When a member of the tribe gave away all their wealth, they would rise up in status of the community. They were also given the honor of wearing a traditional cedar bark hat that would be adorned with a ring. The extra ring on top. Imagine my surprise when I heard about one person who had a hat with 4 rings. 4 rings! Not only did he give away all he had once, he gave it all away 4 times. Like many things in life, it takes time for us to reflect and see the bigger picture. Oh, I'm still impressed by the giving, but now I'm more focused on the regeneration of wealth. That guy didn't live the rest of his life in poverty, but rather built up his wealth time and time and time again. Donna and I live by the belief that we cannot outgive God. We have seen the benefits of giving of our abundance over and over in our lives. We have been blessed by the promises made to us by a God who is still speaking. But our faith isn't at the point to which we would dare give away all of our wealth. Yet, I think about why we have money in the bank for the just in case times when God has promised to take care of us. We have discussed leaving all our wealth to our kids in the church after we are dead and obviously don't need it. Wow. What does that say about the giver? When you give away only what you don't want or need anymore. What does it say about our trust? Our trust in a God that says he or she will provide for us. Like I said before, Donna and I have always been generous givers, but we still only give what we are comfortable giving. We will never walk out on our faith to the point of throwing a potlatch. But maybe we can increase our faith and trust more in a loving God. We have always been blessed beyond our imagination in ways that have often been unexpected. I know that our believing will keep us from walking like our tribal forefathers did, but we will do what we can. In fact, we will continue to think about and expand our vision of what that is. What it is that we can do. I guess the question becomes, can we do more? I am excited for the possibilities, knowing and believing in a God of pure love that loves us and wants the best for us. Knowing that each one of us will do what we can and that God is here to support our efforts. This community church will continue to inspire and support others in the future. May God bless us as we move joyfully forward today and into the future of tomorrow together, doing what we can, knowing the promises of our God and the power of our collective force, and in the words of my people, waiwa, let's go. Thank you.